You know, some machines just refuse to die. They age, they creak, they're called outdated, but they keep showing up. The A-10 Warthog is one of those machines that if you've ever heard that strange, growling BRRRT echo through a video clip of a battlefield, you've already met it. It's not fast, it's not pretty, but to the troops on the ground, it's the sound of hope. Today, we're going inside the A-10 Thunderbolt II, better known as the Warthog. We'll explore how it was built, why it still matters, and what makes it one of the most beloved and feared aircraft ever made. So, grab a coffee, settle in. Let's dive into the story of the beast that refuses to die. The A-10 wasn't created to be beautiful. It was born from fear, a Cold War fear that one day, thousands of Soviet tanks would pour into Western Europe. In the 1970s, the U.S. Air Force realized something terrifying. All their fancy, high-speed jets, like the F-4 Phantom, were great for air-to-air combat, but terrible at stopping tanks. They were too fast, too fragile, and couldn't stay low to protect ground troops. So the Air Force issued a challenge. Build us something tough. Something that can fly low and slow. Something that can kill tanks. Fairchild Republic answered that call. Their engineers didn't care about beauty. They cared about function. And what they created looked like, well, honestly, a mistake. Straight wings. Giant engines on top of the fuselage. A nose that looked like a bulldog. But it worked. And in the center of it all was its beating heart. The GAU-8 Avenger, a 7-barrel, 30mm Gatling gun that could fire nearly 4,000 rounds per minute. Each shell was the size of a beer bottle. Each one could rip through tank armor. To put it simply, the A-10 wasn't built around a gun. The gun was built first, and then they wrapped a plane around it. That BRRRT sound you've heard? That's the Avenger gun in action. When an A-10 fires, it releases a storm of metal so dense that the recoil actually slows the plane down midair. And that gun is aimed with surgical precision. Pilots can hit a target within a few feet. Even while moving at 350 miles per hour, the sound alone became psychological warfare. Enemies learned to fear it. Soldiers learned to love it. One Army infantryman once said, "When you hear that BRRRT, you know you're going home." Now, let's talk about what makes this plane truly insane. How hard it is to kill. The A-10 is basically a flying tank. The pilot sits inside a titanium bathtub, armor plates that can stop high-caliber rounds. Its control systems are doubled, so if one fails, another takes over. The engines are spaced far apart, protected by the wings and fuselage. Even the landing gear is designed to survive hits. It can land on dirt, grass, even partially damaged runways. And it's not just theory. There are real stories, almost unbelievable ones, of A-10s coming home with half their tail missing, bullet holes across the wings, engines on fire, and still landing safely. In 2003, one pilot took a direct missile hit. Hydraulics were gone. One engine dead. But she flew that plane 300 miles back to base. Manually. That's not just engineering. That's loyalty built into metal. The A-10's first major test came in 1991, the Gulf War. Before that, many in the Air Force actually hated it. They said it was too slow, too old-fashioned, too ugly. But when Operation Desert Storm began, everything changed. The Warthog became the most effective tank killer in history. In just 42 days, it destroyed over 900 tanks, 2,000 vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces. While faster jets were refueling or avoiding radar, the A-10s were circling low, finding targets, and eliminating them with precision. Pilots called it flying through hell with your sleeves rolled up. Because down there, just a few hundred feet above the sand, you could feel the danger, smell the smoke, and see the people you were protecting. The troops on the ground. The A-10 wasn't just support. It was salvation. Flying the A-10 isn't like flying any other jet. It's raw. It's physical. It feels alive. Pilots describe it like wrestling a living creature. Heavy, stubborn, but loyal once you learn its rhythm. The cockpit gives incredible visibility, almost panoramic. You can look straight down at the ground and see every movement, every flash, every vehicle. It's not automated. There's no fancy fly-by-wire system. You feel every vibration, every gust, every round that leaves the gun. That's why pilots love it. It's honest. It doesn't hide what it's doing. One pilot once said, "You don't fly the hawk. You ride it." After the Gulf War, the Cold War ended. The big tank battles everyone expected? They never came. And so, the Air Force tried to retire the A-10. Again and again, but then came new wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. And suddenly, the A-10 was useful again in a world of drones and stealth jets. The Warthog's ability to stay over a battlefield for hours made it invaluable. It could wait, observe, strike only when necessary. For soldiers pinned down in valleys or cities, hearing the A-10's engines meant help was on the way. Even when visibility was poor, even when the terrain was brutal, the Hog was there. Its pilots flew low, precise, deliberate. They called it death with discipline. You'd think with all that history, the A-10 would be untouchable. But inside the Pentagon, things are never that simple. The Air Force wants sleek, modern, multi-role fighters. Jets that can do everything, from dogfights to bombing runs, and look good doing it. The A-10? It's old. It's slow. It doesn't fit the image.so. For decades, they've tried to cut it. Budget after budget, they've argued it's outdated. But every time something happens, the troops speak up. Congress intervenes. Veterans flood the media with stories of how the Warthog saved their lives, that it's become more than a plane. It's a symbol of grit, simplicity, and reliability in a world that keeps chasing complexity.so. What's it like, really, to sit inside the Hog? Imagine climbing into a machine that feels like it was built by mechanics, not designers. Metal everywhere. Levers, switches, cables, the smell of fuel, the hum of hydraulics, the faint vibration of engines starting up. When you throttle forward, it doesn't leap, it growls. You can feel the air pushing back, and when you fire that gun, the entire aircraft shakes. You don't hear the brrrt, you feel it in your bones. For a few seconds, the world goes white with smoke and recoil that it's not glamorous. But it's unforgettable. Every aircraft has its heroes. The A-10 has legends that there's the pilot who flew home with an entire wing shredded, another who landed after taking hundreds of bullet holes, and the one who manually controlled the aircraft after a missile hit. No hydraulics, just cables and willpower. If they're not movie stars, they're quiet professionals. People who believe in the mission, protect the troops, no matter the cost. And that bond between pilot and machine? It's sacred because both share the same philosophy. You can hurt me, but you won't stop me. Now, the A-10 is old, very old. The Air Force says it's time to move on, that they're looking at drones, stealth jets, autonomous systems. And maybe that's progress. But ask anyone who's ever relied on the Warthog, and they'll tell you, technology doesn't replace trust that a drone can see. A fighter can strike, but the A-10 stays. It waits for the right moment. It protects, it endures, and when it leaves the battlefield for good, whenever that is, it'll take with it a kind of honesty that few machines ever had. The A-10 isn't the future of warfare, but it's a reminder of something we shouldn't forget. That power doesn't always mean perfection. Sometimes it means persistence. The Warthog was never about style. It was about substance. A blunt instrument with a noble purpose, protect those on the ground. That's what makes it human. And maybe that's why it's so hard to let go of. Because when we look at it, scratched, dented, loud, and proud, we see something that looks a lot like ourselves, flawed, tough, and determined to keep flying, no matter what. Inside the A-10 Warthog, you don't just find machinery. You find willpower. You find the courage to fly straight into danger and come back alive. And in a world obsessed with what's next, sometimes it's worth remembering the machines and the people that got us this far.